No, we got a moron here.
Presenting the distinguished international news commentator and foreign correspondent,
Smaulgld. This has been an extraordinary week in world affairs.
No, I told Hillary Clinton that that's Moronica.
Welcome to Smaulgld's Moronica for the week ended March 24th, 2018. The week's news. They made you scratch your head, cringe, or just say, that's moronic. Well, this just in, Justin Trudeau again tops our moronic list. Actually, not because of anything that the Prime Minister of Canada said, but because of the defense or the trashing of Donald Trump by the New York Times on the issue of tariffs. Our friend here says, why does the President of the United States not know whether we have a trade surplus or deficit with Canada? Well, perhaps it's because
more steel than the Americans import. We have a significant trade surplus. The Americans have a significant trade surplus with us on steel, which means we buy steel from them, they buy steel from us.
Maybe it's because he learned from Justin Trudeau. Doubtful. I think that Donald Trump probably knows a bit more about trade and the status of the trade surplus or deficit with Canada than, as we saw, Justin Trudeau knows. Why kids shouldn't be allowed to protest. This is a huge Moronica that's going on across the country. I think there's a march today. They're dressing up children as small as 4 or 5 years old, handing out signs, as if the children, just because they have an interest, understand the issues. This, to me, is a form of child abuse and indoctrination. Now, this one kid here, obviously probably indoctrinated by his own parents, but he decided to carry a sign that said, guns don't kill people, people do, and his principal decided to march him away from the other students and threaten to call the cops on him. Another bit of Moronica in all this gun control issue. Well, we've got this guy here. Oh, not that guy. He's another. We're done with him. Our friend, what's his name here? David Hogg. Now, he's not the moron. The morons are the people that have given this guy a platform as if he's some type of seasoned commentator, has studied the issues of gun control, understands the Second Amendment, understands what's going on. Well, apparently now, not only does he have a platform to discuss the Second Amendment, but here he is talking about the First Amendment, and his issue is that when kids in his school are now somehow required to carry a clear backpack, well, then their First Amendment rights are being trampled on because students going through their menstrual cycle, maybe people might see their tampons and stuff. So once you raise the level of putting a child and children in charge of policy, you really have reached a new level of low of Moronica. Well, here's one that is, I don't know whether to call this Moronica or not, but this is take the car, leave the baby. This gentleman right here is carrying a baby. The baby was a bit of an inconvenience in his attempt to steal the car. He had to drop the child off at a gas station before he can continue with his theft. Now, he's not the moron. Actually, you might consider he's one of the good guys, one of the good criminals. Yes, he was stealing a car, but at least he had the common sense and morality to take the baby and drop it off. He did not need to have a baby kidnapping charge leveled against him. Relatively smart. The morons, perhaps, are the parents or mother or father who left the kid in the car, subject to be stolen. Why Hillary lost. Now, we're not done with this yet. Now, we have seen that Hillary won't give it up. It's white women's fault. They listen to their mother, and their father, their brother, their husband. They're not forward-looking. They're not progressive. They don't care about blacks getting jobs, women getting rights, Indians getting promotions. All the normal drivel that we hear from her. Everyone is deplorable other than the progressive, forward-looking, diverse people that she identifies with. But now we have her defenders out. Here's the guy, Seth Abramson. Clinton would have lost if she wouldn't have lost if Comey hadn't reopened the FBI probe on Clinton emails. No, she wouldn't have lost if she hadn't been probed in the first place. If she hadn't opened up an illegal server in her basement, had it mishandled classified information. And then he said, Comey reopened the probe over fear of leaks from the New York Times. First of all, Comey reopened the probe. He's the guy who does the leaking. He wasn't worried about leaks in the New York Times. How would the New York Times know anything about what Comey's doing other than what he tells them? We learned later that he actually did leak things, not directly to the New York Times, but to his professor law buddy, so that they could be leaked to the New York Times. So this type of, this election was over 18, 19 months ago. They're still blaming Russia. Hillary's blaming the voters now. You know, that's like blaming your customers when you go out of business. Our customers just didn't appreciate the quality we were delivering, and you know, their husbands were telling them don't shop here. What a load of nonsense. I mean, Hillary lost because, remember, she blamed the YouTube video for the attack on the U.S. Libyan embassy. What difference does it make? Americans are dead. Yeah, a difference does it make was you were in charge. She set up the unauthorized server in her bathroom. She called more than half of Americans deplorable. She fell on her face on 9/11. She did not depict a person of strength and character. Sorry. And our friend VJ added her comment, "We came, we saw, he died, ha, ha, ha." I mean, these are not positive traits that Hillary Clinton had. Put aside her politics, she just was not a likable person. All right. And then here we have Hannity warning Hillary because she's doubling down. Well, the other dumb thing that she said, or moronic thing, was that Donald Trump has used the office to enrich himself. Pot calling the kettle black. The Clinton Foundation is the biggest enricher. Her husband made a fortune peddling, "I never did that, and I said this, and I said that." Speeches for $500,000 in front of Russians. She gave speeches for millions of dollars in front. They made a fortune off of their offices. Bill and Hillary Clinton, I don't think have had a real job in decades, and yet they're worth millions. Your dog has broken the law. This is, and I still haven't gotten to my YouTube. I have to do one on the hate speech laws, but here we now have how ludicrous we can get. Apparently this dog was filmed by, I think the guy's name is Count Dankula. But anyway, somehow he taught the dog to raise his paw, and I guess it was supposed to be some Nazi salute. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but apparently he's being prosecuted for a hate crime for teaching this dog how to do a Nazi salute. More on that later. How to solve inflation. Here is our favorite socialist, Nicolas Maduro. Well, he got inflation problems, so what he's going to do? Well, he's going to knock 3 zeros off the ailing currency amidst hyperinflation. Now, this is the type of guy who cuts his sandwich into 4 pieces instead of 2 when he's hungry. That's moronic, Dizzy Miss Lizzie. Well, Dizzy Miss Lizzie sat down with fellow millionaires at a millionaire powwow with Senator Sanders and none other than Michael Moore. 3 millionaires sitting around complaining how the 1% got all the wealth in this country. Well, they had to go at it, and they were complaining. Now, if you think about Dizzy Miss Lizzie and Bernie Sanders, millionaires, and really from being politicians. That tells you more about not wealth inequality in this country, but more about how politicians somehow manage not just to do public service, but manage to become millionaires while, quote, serving the public. And remember, everyone has wealth equality in Venezuela. I've never liked the idea of wealth inequality as an issue. The issue is based not on whether people have what they need, whether the system, whatever system it is, whether it's communism, socialism, combination of the two, free market capitalism. What you want out of a political system, besides freedom, is that that system provides for the needs of the people. Not that it creates that everyone gets the same amount. It's very, very childish. If, for example, you have a house, a car, and you're well fed, does it really matter to you? If it does, I think you're immature. That someone else has a bigger house, 3 jets, and a helicopter, and a few swimming pools. No, you have what you need. Would you rather everyone be poor and be equal? We're going to blame the 1%. They got more cookies over there than they got over here. We're going to fix that. And he's going to get paid to do it. So you elect somebody who enriches himself, has a few houses himself, because he's going to fix wealth inequality in this country and make everything for free. Basically redistribute wealth. All right. So that powwow, there they are, having their powwow, discussing what they're going to do about it. It's a huge problem in America. See, the problems that we have in America or anywhere in the world are not wealth inequality. They're poverty. They were saying they want to help solve poverty. I'd understand that. Poverty being defined as not having as much as the next guy or gal or whatever gender, but not having enough. And when I say enough, I don't mean that they're lacking a cell phone or a television set. I mean not having access to shelter, food, and health care. It's a huge difference between fighting poverty and fighting wealth inequality. Fighting wealth inequality is basically meaning you've been deputized to go get something for somebody who's mad that they don't have something that somebody else has. 3 millionaires: Bernie Sanders, Dizzy Miss Lizzie, and Michael Moore. Now, at least Michael Moore, to his credit, has produced something in order to make his millions. He produces complaints against the system that enriches him, but at least he produces something. The other two, I'm not sure what they produce other than speeches. Well, congratulating is now an act of treason. People were complaining that Donald Trump called Putin to congratulate him. World leaders get congratulated all the time by other world leaders. Obama congratulated Putin when he was reelected. It's just a bunch of Moronica. Well, this one's big Moronica. So apparently these researchers found child porn links on Bitcoin blockchain, and therefore they made the determination that Bitcoin holders, it's illegal to hold Bitcoin, because somewhere on the blockchain, and I read an article of how you'd have to find these links. Therefore, it's almost impossible to find them, but somehow that makes Bitcoin illegal. That kind of argument is so ridiculous. That's like saying having a computer, an iPhone, an iPad, or other device that connects to the internet is illegal because you can find bad links on the internet. Two morons, President Donald Trump and crazy Joe Biden. So Joe Biden, it's not the first time he said something moronic like this, and he's good for saying moronic stuff. He says he's so mad at Donald Trump for what he says about women that he'd take them behind the gym and beat the hell out of them if they were in high school. Well, newsflash, you're 60 years out of high school, crazy Joe. And then, Joe, get a shotgun. A lot of dumb things that Joe has said, besides some of the creepy images that we've seen online with him. When he said, you need a slight Indian accent to go into a 7-Eleven, he's laughing when he's speaking to, I think it was an Indian exchange student or visa holder, as if somehow he was ingratiating himself to this guy by telling him they have 7-Elevens in his home state. But of course, Donald Trump, not one to not take debate, decides that he needs to rise to the level of Moronica, and he says, crazy Joe Biden is trying to act like a tough guy. Actually, he is weak, both mentally and physically, and yet he threatens me for the second time with physical assault. Should have stopped him right there, but then he says he doesn't know me, but he would go down fast and hard, crying all the way. Don't threaten people, Joe. Two 70-plus-year-olds threaten to beat the hell out of each other. I, for one, would pay to see it. Global warming. James Woods is always good with the wit. Here's New York Times opinion. It's harder to enjoy your burger when you think of the greenhouse gas emitted producing it. And James Woods says, honestly, it isn't. And if you remember last week in Moronica with Ben and Jerry's ice cream, but I do take great pleasure in knowing that I am helping the environment and helping reduce my global footprint, my global carbon footprint, when I pass on Ben and Jerry's ice cream. Because after all, ice cream is produced as a byproduct of, not as a byproduct, but through the herding of cattle, which produce milk, and methane gases come from cows, and that is definitely a global warming issue. And every time I don't buy Ben & Jerry's ice cream, I realize I'm helping save the planet. Uh-oh. This is our final moronic for the week. Now, cancer research in the UK has determined that obesity and cancer are linked. Well, some of the more overweight or calorically challenged people have decided that this is fat shaming, and they have demanded to the mayor of London, what's his name, I don't know, Siddiqui or something, that these signs be banned and taken down. Well, that's about it for this week. There's only so much you can take for Moronica in 1 week. We will see you next week.